9 years locked away for a crime that wasn't mine. The guard slid my personal belongings across the counter and said, "Daniel Walsh, you're a free man." I stared at the plastic bag. Inside was a wedding ring I hadn't worn in 9 years. "My name is Daniel Walsh. I'm 66 years old, and I just walked out of Ridgeview Correctional Facility for a crime I never committed. 9 years ago, I owned a manufacturing company in Ohio, Walsh and Turner Steel. I built it from nothing with my best friend since college, Marcus Turner. We shook hands on that partnership in 1988. No lawyers, just trust. That trust cost me everything. One morning, federal agents showed up at my office with a warrant. Embezzlement, fraud, $2 million missing from client accounts. My name was on every document. My signature was on every wire transfer. I didn't sign those papers. I told the judge that. I told my lawyer that. I told my wife, Carol, that. Nobody believed me. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Marcus sat in the courtroom every single day. He held Carol's hand during the verdict. He whispered something in her ear when the judge said, "Guilty." I watched my best friend comfort my wife while I was led away in handcuffs. I spent the first 2 years writing letters to Carol, to my daughter, Emily, to anyone who would listen. The letters came back unopened, or not at all. By year 3, Carol filed for divorce. She said she couldn't raise Emily with a convicted felon's name attached to her. I understood. I didn't blame her. Not then. By year 5, Marcus stopped visiting. The company he took over, my company, was worth $50 million. I read about it in a newspaper someone left in the prison library. Turner Steel expands nationwide. My name wasn't mentioned once. By year 7, I stopped hoping. But 3 months ago, everything changed. A young public defender named Rachel Kim reopened my case. She found something everyone else missed, a forensic accountant's report, buried in a storage unit, that had never made it into evidence. It proved the wire transfers came from an IP address that wasn't mine. It was Marcus. Today, I signed my exoneration papers. The state admitted I was innocent. 9 years of my life, gone. My marriage, gone. My daughter barely remembers my voice. I stood outside the prison gates with nothing but a bag of old clothes, and a phone Rachel had given me. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 9 years. It rang twice. Turner Steel corporate office. This is the front desk. How can I help you? I took a breath. Tell Marcus Turner, I said, that Daniel Walsh is out, and I'm coming to see him today. There was a long silence on the other end. Then the receptionist said something that made my blood run cold. "I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Turner passed away last spring." I stood frozen outside the prison gates, the phone still pressed to my ear. "He's dead?" I asked. "Yes, sir," the receptionist said gently. "Heart attack. Last April." "I'm sorry. Who did you say you were again?" I hung up without answering. 9 years of planning this moment. 9 years of imagining the look on Marcus' face when I walked into his office. And now he was gone. The man who destroyed my life had escaped every consequence I'd imagined for him. Rachel picked me up an hour later. I told her what happened. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Daniel, there's something you need to know. Something I didn't want to tell you until you were out." "What is it?" "Turner Steel isn't run by Marcus' family anymore. After he died, majority ownership passed to someone else. Someone who's been trying to reach you for weeks." "Who?" "Your daughter." I felt my chest tighten. "Emily. She's involved with that company." Rachel nodded. "She's been working there for 3 years. Before Marcus died, she found records, old emails, bank statements. She started digging because something never sat right with her about your case. We drove to a small office building outside Columbus, and there she was. Emily, 31 years old now, not the 22-year-old girl I remembered from the courtroom. "Dad," she said, and her voice cracked. I didn't know what to say. 9 years of silence stood between us like a wall. "I know you probably hate me," she said. "I believed them. I believed Marcus. I believed the lawyers. I was so angry at you, for so long." "Emily, let me finish." Tears filled her eyes. 3 years ago, I got hired at Turner Steel without even telling them my last name was Walsh. I wanted to understand the company that destroyed our family. And I found things, Dad. Financial records Marcus kept hidden. Personal journals. He wrote about what he did to you. She pulled out a worn leather notebook and handed it to me. I opened it with shaking hands. The handwriting was unmistakably Marcus. The first entry made my stomach drop. Daniel trusts me completely. That's his weakness. I can move the money through his accounts, and he'll never even check. By the time anyone notices, I'll have built something bigger than anything we ever dreamed of together. And he'll take the fall. He always does what's right, which means he'll never suspect his best friend of being wrong. I turned the page. Another entry, dated just months before my arrest. Carol doesn't know yet. She still trusts him, but trust breaks easily under pressure. I just need to apply enough. My hands were trembling now. He planned all of it, I whispered. From the very beginning. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. There's more, Dad. Something about Mom. Something Marcus wrote 2 years into your sentence. She flipped to a page marked with a red tab. You need to read this before you see her again, Emily said, because Mom is remarried now to someone you know very well. My hands shook as I turned to the marked page. Marcus' handwriting filled the paper, dated 2 years into my sentence. Carol came to me again today, asking questions about the case. I held her while she cried. It's almost too easy. She needs someone strong now, someone who can provide. In time, she'll forget she ever doubted me. I closed the notebook. Who did she marry, Emily? My daughter's eyes were full of pain. Robert Chen, Marcus' business partner. He helped hide the money overseas. He's been living off it for years, Dad. He's the one who married Mom 4 years ago. I sat down slowly in the office chair. Everyone I trusted had been part of this, except my daughter, who spent 3 years quietly building a case to bring the truth into the light. Why didn't you come to me sooner? I asked. I was scared, she admitted. Scared you'd hate me for taking so long. Scared the evidence wouldn't be enough. I needed to be certain before I gave you false hope. Rachel stepped forward. Daniel, with this notebook and the financial records Emily collected, we can reopen everything. Not just your exoneration. We can pursue civil charges against Robert Chen and recover what's rightfully yours. I spent the next few weeks in Rachel's office, going through boxes of records, with Emily late into the night. Coffee cups piled up on the table. Some nights we barely spoke, just read in silence, passing pages back and forth. Every document revealed another piece of the plan Marcus had built years before my arrest. Slowly, the full picture came into focus. 3 months later, I stood in a courtroom again. But this time, I wasn't the one on trial. Robert Chen sat where I once sat, in the same worn wooden chair. His lawyer argued technicalities, tried to shift blame onto Marcus, a dead man who couldn't defend himself. But the evidence Emily gathered, combined with Marcus' own journals, was undeniable. Bank transfers, shell companies registered overseas, recorded conversations Emily had quietly captured during her 3 years at the company. The jury took less than 4 hours to reach a verdict. Robert Chen was sentenced to 12 years in order to return what remained of the stolen funds. It wouldn't undo what happened, but it was something. It was the truth, finally spoken out loud in a room full of witnesses. Carol came to see me before the sentencing. She looked older, tired, ashamed. Her hands trembled as she spoke. I'm sorry, Daniel, she said. I should have believed you. I should have fought for you when it mattered most. I looked at her for a long moment, remembering the woman I married and the years I'd spent imagining this exact conversation from a prison cell. I forgive you, Carol, I said finally, but I can't go back to who I was before. None of us can. Too much has changed. She nodded, understanding, and walked away without looking back. I felt lighter watching her go, like I'd finally set down something I'd been carrying for 9 years. Today, I stand in front of a building with a new sign above the door, Walsh and Daughter Manufacturing. Emily insisted on keeping my name first, even though she'd done most of the rebuilding while I was still learning how to trust the world again. We started small, 12 employees, 1 warehouse, every contract reviewed line by line, twice. I taught Emily everything I once knew about steel and manufacturing. She taught me something I'd forgotten in prison, how to trust again, slowly, one honest relationship at a time. Marcus never faced justice in this life, but the lies he tried to bury outlived him, written in his own hand, undone by the daughter he had underestimated completely. I lost 9 years I can never reclaim, but I gained something I never expected, undeniable proof that even in the deepest silence, someone out there can still be quietly fighting for you. Some debts can never be repaid, but some bonds, once broken, can still be rebuilt, one honest day at a time.